This is Cockpits and Cocktails. We use this podcast to share stories and talk about all things aviation and aerospace. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Cheers to you and enjoy. On this episode of Cockpits and Cocktails, we are speaking with the producers of a film found at invisibleskyfilm.com. This is about a crash that took place in 2006 where a female, Georgina Joshi, was a 24-year-old pilot in command. The airplane crashed on final at Bloomington Monroe County Airport in Indiana. We're going to discuss the investigation from the NTSB. I would recommend visiting the website, invisibleskyfilm.com, to get a little background and then listen to our conversation with the producers of that film.
Welcome, everyone, to Cockpits and Cocktails podcast. And we are so excited to have the producers of Invisible Sky Films. If you could please just introduce yourselves and tell us about what you would like to share with everyone today.
Yes, my name is Georgina Joshi. I'm the father of the Georgina Joshi, and she was piloting the aircraft which got crashed. She was carrying her 5 friends in the plane and crashed at this half-mile short of runway 35 in Bloomington, Indiana. We went through lots of agony, me and my wife Louise, to find out what happened. And it took almost a year and a half for NTSB to investigate. And once the report came out, we realized that something is not right. So we had the attorney and we had the private investigator. We duplicate the flight path of Georgina Joshi coming from Purdue to Bloomington, Indiana. And I realized that NTSB really did not investigate the accident properly or correctly. They just...
Or at all.
Or at all. That's correct. And that policy is to just blame your pilot. And then we all go home and then go something important in their life, whatever important for them is. And and before NTSB, we had to file the lawsuit against FAA because their controller was totally negligent, and they admitted in writing that they made a serious mistake. Georgina deserved, and her 5 friends deserved much more better service from the controller than they provided to her. So they settled the lawsuit outside the court, but we could not clear the Georgina's name because we had to go to NTSB. And we thought it'd be easy, we can tell what happened because FAA agreed that what happened. We went to NTSB and they say absolutely no, it was 100% Georgina's fault. And so we had to file the lawsuit against NTSB. We went all the way to the Supreme Court. And even the Supreme Court turned it down, saying there are no jurisdictions over NTSB. Now, that is the only agency in the whole United States government nobody can question. Notice even Supreme Court, no the Appeal Court, no any judge. And so that's why after almost took 10 years to how to let people know that NTSB is not as good as they think they are. So people don't realize that there's a serious problem. And we have to hold NTSB accountable because they are the one who investigate every single accident.
In any form of transportation.
Any form of transportations. And when NTSB is good, they're really good. But they really focus all on commercial airlines. If you go back 15, 20 years ago, the commercial airlines had many accidents. Lots of people got killed. And the record was very, very bad. So Congress involved NTSB. And look at now, the commercial aircraft aviation has 0 accident.
Right.
But they are not doing same thing for the private
For the smaller aircrafts, yeah.
Smaller
and
aircraft.
Yeah.
So that's why we made the invisible films to let people educate, to understand what we can do to make things better for other people. Because for us, we lost our daughter and
Yes.
her five friends. We cannot bring her back. Our whole purpose is what we can do to make the sky safer for everybody.
So as general, as pilots, what would you like to see as a group to see these changes, or what kind of changes are you proposing that give us some insight so that we can come together?
I think a lot of it starts with Congress and how they set up the NTSB, and making sure that there are checks and balances, number one. And number two, if you're going to give them such a big umbrella of responsibility, you have to fund them accordingly. Because we understand when a United or when a commercial flight goes down, there are several hundred people on it. Of course, that's a big impact. When a general aviation plane goes down, there's anywhere from, let's say, 1 to 10.
Yeah.
It's a smaller impact as far as the news goes. But there are many more general aviation flights every day. And so the numbers kind of work out, and general aviation is an amazing thing. And we just want people to understand that if you go up and if something happens, you're not really going to get the support you need to figure out what happened the way you would in a commercial flight. And we don't think that's fair. Maybe they either need to have a smaller area of responsibility that they can really focus on and do what they've done for commercial aviation for those form of travel, or else they need to fund them so that everyone has the same execution and focus from the
Following the same
NTSB.
procedures.
Yes.
The same procedures, whether it's a small aircraft with 2 seats or 700 seats.
Right.
And it's horrible that this tragedy had to happen for somebody to start thinking about it. And all of us in GA, you have to take a tragedy, and you guys are turning her story into something, like you said, we don't want her name just, oh, it was pilot error, always pilot error. You hear that that's what you hear.
That's what
GA,
you hear.
pilot error. And
see,
you guys are,
Natalie, the main purpose is NTSB is to investigate the accident, find out what happened, and tell the public and FAA and make the aviation safer. But when you blame it on the pilot, then nobody knows what happened, how to make the things better.
Right.
Nobody.
Do they need more training to become a pilot? Do they need more frequent testing to keep their skills up? What is it? If pilot error truly is the problem, what are we going to do about that problem?
Well, but from what I hear, a lot of times NTSB says that because GA airplanes don't have the same kind of equipment to actually figure out what the issue was, so they use that as an answer. Are you wanting to see more appropriate equipment so that we can figure out those issues?
I think if you have better equipment, of course, it's good. But the equipment costs hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
And in a small plane, there's not, number one, to have enough room to put those type of equipments like commercial aviation. And number two is the equipment is not really a problem. Because when you do, there are two type of instrument, license you have. One is a visual, VFR, visual flight rules, or the IFR, instrument flight rule. And in order to get those certificates, your plane has to be equipped. bare minimum to make sure that you can able to fly instrument or you can fly in a weather individual. It says very clearly. So equipment, if you're better, yes, it helps. But that's not the thing. For example, in Georgina's case, the controller who was directing her flight, asking her how to approach the aircraft and land, so she was following his direction. That person has only 1 hour of training. 1 hour of training. He was totally unqualified, totally unfit. And he was controlling.
5 lives.
And
How many planes did they have control over?
Yeah.
Right.
and another
So,
thing,
right, it could be controllers that where do we need to start from the ground up to help, whether it's controllers or ATC or NTSB, but you guys are bringing this to light and you decided to put it in a film. How did that come about? I mean, I can't fathom the loss as a mom. I can't, but how did you guys decide to put this? I mean, that's a great way to get
Do you want me to do that? Or do you
more
want
ears on that.
yes.
I think it was after we exhausted our legal pathways. We still felt strongly about it. At the time, Yatish was still flying, and he's kind of a magnet for people who want to learn how to fly, and people talk to him about it and his love of flying. And so then it's like, okay, we tried working through our congressperson. That went nowhere. We tried judicial. That went far, but not far enough. And so then it's like, how do you work on grassroots? And we just started talking to people, and we met with some local filmmakers, and they were like, you can do this. We could help you. We could tell the story. We could make it. Originally, our thought was it would be like a 15-minute.
Yeah.
15-minute turned into like an hour and a half, and then we had to cut it back. Because if you're really interested, there are so many questions and there are so many details. And sorry, I have the radio come on every night to greet me when I come home from work and give me the news. KPCC is telling me what's happening. There we go. My apologies. So we thought that this documentary would be a way, especially documentaries aren't what they were 15 years ago. You're like, oh, Mom, you're going to make me watch a documentary. Like our kids call us all the time telling, oh, watch this documentary, watch that documentary. And it becomes an educational as well as entertainment,
But it opens people's eyes.
It opens people's eyes. It starts conversations.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's what we're hoping to do. Keep people talking.
And in training, we watched accident, accident investigations to really, I think it's extremely important to understand how something went wrong so that I recently, within driving distance, I was in the air going this way with my Cirrus, and a Cirrus crashed on a golf course right near my house. So, people want to know what happened and how we can learn. I want to know what can I do to do better, or what didn't I do? Did they forget something? And when it's always, you hear it's just pilot error, it's pilot error. When in your case, they were on with a controller. There's no way to claim, I live in Pennsylvania, it's remote. It's only, so my tag. It's only, it could be anyone's idea of what happened when I'm not on with Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So I think that doing this film is bringing up traumatic issues is hard, but I think it's a great thing that you could be doing for the lives of others and pilots or people on the ground. all of her friends that were with her. I think it's a great thing to. I think you guys did a great job, but I feel horrible for your loss at that same time.
I think if there was no rules or regulations, Georgina, if there was no FA involved or controller directing her, if she's flying by herself, she would be landed 100%. 100%. See, according to her instructor, her examiner, she was one of the best pilot. They make statements saying that she's an Air Force quality pilot. She was that good. So the examiner was saying that every 6 months they do commercial pilot. They go to training and they do the exams, make sure they are qualified to fly the commercial plane. And Georgina was flying far better and superior than the commercial pilot. Where commercial pilots thousands and thousands of hours. So her quality of the flying was not in question. She was, and the thing was that the controller gives a wrong frequency of the airport. Georgina fly that was her airport, Bloomington. She used to fly there all the time. Come to South Bend home and then go back. It was her plane. So she knew Bloomington in and out. So as I can visualize, everything was set up for the landing. The controller comes back and says, oh, the frequency to Bloomington Airport is such and such. And they give the frequency of the Terre Haute Airport. So Georgia announced it that, hey, I'm 5 miles from the Bloomington Airport, coming to runway 35 for landing. And Terre Haute came back saying, Georgia, you're on the wrong frequency. And so Georgia was like, thank you. And that was the last we heard. So she was only half mile from the airport. And so the whole concentrations. And because they get the wrong frequency, another plane flying in the area, they cannot hear. And Georgina cannot hear that plane. And it was just a kind of incompetency. Understand, people made a mistake. I agree 100%, no problems. If Georgia made a mistake, we agree. Okay, but in this case, Georgia did not make a mistake. She was 100%, everything on the target. FAA admitted, yes, their control was a serious mistake. They had 1 hour of training. And what NTSB did? Nothing. What FAA did for that, their control is still working. And directing the flight. So that's the situation. So, and the whole thing is NTSB, their job is to create a safety for everybody in the sky. And they're not doing the job for the general aviation. All we have to ask, take a responsibility. And if you're not going to do it, okay, just say no. And maybe Congress can appoint some different agency or different people who are really interested. And that has to come from the people demanding that we need an agency who really look after everybody.
General aviation.
General aviation, and create the safety of the general aviation. Because one crash every day. One pilot crash, so 365 people died in a year.
Well, it's way more than that. but
Yeah, exactly.
you know.
If you take one a day, so
Yeah.
so thing has to be changed, a thing has to be improved.
So with your documentary, what is your main message and legacy that you would like to make an impact with her memory?
I think her legacy, that the type of person she was, if you can able to do something for other people and avoid one accident, then this is more than worth it. We can save one more life, is more than worth it. So that is her legacy. Because she always, if you look her background, she will find out she always help other people all the time. She sacrificed herself to help other people. So if you can able to save one accident because of these films, or because of this message. I think her life was much more worthwhile than ever.
And how can people see the documentary?
Oh, well, it's
It's on the
posted. Let me read the list of.
It's in to be.
I know I had just seen it on, I think you can get it on Amazon Prime.
You can get it on Amazon Prime. You can get it on Roku channel, on streaming services that Giant owns, which are Roku, Tubi, Vudu. Hoopla through your library card has it. So anyone with a library card is able to watch it.
Without any cost, correct?
Yeah, free with your library card. I think you pay for it on Amazon, but Roku, Tubi, and Vudu are other methods of watching it.
And what are your social media platforms so that people can come and support you?
Facebook, Twitter.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
And this is Invisible Sky Films. That's your handle, correct?
Yes.
I think this is a really, do you think that Georgina is probably looking down and humbled that you guys would try to protect other pilots with just her memory? I think that, how do you guys feel now that it came out, and as her parents, as I mean, this is probably, how long did it
Georgina
take?
Smiles down on her father and is so proud of him every day. Every day.
I can see the love and the sorrow at the same time, that this had to have been just every day after day trying. Yes, I want to make a documentary, but now I have to bring up everything. Yeah, but it's almost, in the end, it's worth it, because how many people are going to see this? And then it's just going to keep going, and something has to happen. And you're going to protect pilots like Cooper, myself. She flies with her children. She flies in a very busy, congested area. How you talk with controllers a lot, Cooper?
All the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we maybe someday we'll hit that person that is good friends with the guy who's the chairman of the transportation. I mean, every time there's an election, I look at who the new transportation committee people are and send another round of letters out to them, asking them to take note of this. If everyone that watched it joined me and did that every year, I know how hard this has been for Yatish and the family. And so I just try to keep ringing the bell and hoping that someone answers the phone someday and helps us. We credit the NTSB a lot. They have done an amazing job to make our cars safer. They've done an amazing job to make commercial aviation safer. But if you can't take care of one of the children, you got to give it to someone who can. And general aviation is one of the children. And I mean, right now, I don't have the statistic for how many accidents there are a year, and how many GA pilots there are, but people work hard to get their license. I think if you're not a good pilot, you need a system set up to keep you trained, to keep you on your top game, to know when you shouldn't be flying anymore. Because if you enjoyed it for 30 years and now you're 85, maybe it's not where you should be anymore. What is the mechanism that we're going to establish to make sure that general aviation pilots are tested and observed the same way commercial aviation pilots are, that the physical is intact, that the rules are intact. And then how are we going to train the, they kept closing down. Remember they closed Terre Haute and, like smaller airports, they closed down their towers at.
After 9 o'clock in the night, I think the FAA changed the rules, and make the things safety. They need minimum 2 controller during traffic in the night. So they shut down the Terre Haute, which is only 30 miles from the Bloomington, and people knows Bloomington, the whole area, how to direct traffic. The person who was directing traffic for Georgina was Indianapolis, has no training. And guess what? FAA rule was the minimum 2 controllers. In Indianapolis, there's a reason they transport to Indianapolis. But on that night, there's only 1 controller was directing the traffic. So they broke their own rules. So it's, I think general aviation kind of treated as a kind of orphan child. And there's a problem. How you can able to make a change? So general aviation also is equivalent to commercial aircraft or auto industries or trains, all the mode of transportations. So we have to just keep, and we appreciate so much that this is a podcast and you are so many people going to listen to your podcast and what will transfer. So we really appreciate that
Opportunity
you gave us to talk about it.
And I would love to have you back on again. That would be, to see how you feel with how the documentary turned out. If anything, we've had some progress. I know Cooper and I will be blasting everybody with you. But I think we're at like 5 minutes left, so we're going to run out of time.
I apologize. We are out of time today, but we are so grateful that you came on and shared your story with us. And hopefully we can have you on again to talk more in depth. We would love that. But appreciate so much for you taking the time out to share your story.
Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for your questions. And anytime you need us, if we can help you, you got us.
Thank you for doing this for us.